Hey everybody, it is Marley K. Happy New Year. And I just want to come talk to you today a little bit about the stuff that's going on with the schools, just all over the country. And if you haven't been paying attention, I've been sharing a little bit on my Twitter thread. If you don't follow me on Twitter, please do. That's where I'm most active. I don't really use Facebook pretty much at all unless I publish through my website. So I don't really use Facebook. The majority of my communications are done through either Medium, my website, where I write and talk about different topics, or I live tweet different things. So I also tweet on Twitter. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks is that there's like this consistent uh, attack on school boards. And one of the things that is missing are Black parents. And that's problematic because when Black parents don't show up, that means we give consent to whatever the powers that be plan for us, for our children. And as you know, our children are our future. For the record, son, my youngest son is 30, so I don't have any young children in public school systems. I have grandchildren that attend public schools, and not here in Florida where I live, that attend schools in another state. But I care about all children because children are our future. In order for me to be well when I'm old and the system to work, it requires that young people be taken care of in school so that they become upwardly mobile, healthy, happy, um, you know, good, well-rounded adults, young adults, so that they can contribute to our communities and our society in general. So when you have people who are not wanting to be truthful about our history, that's problematic. When you have people that can show up at school board meetings and demand that their children don't have to learn or be touched by certain subjects that impact our children, and then we're not present to counter that, we're basically saying that we're okay with them having their way, and we're okay with our children not being protected and their children learning racism and being comfortable in racism and having the space to practice racism in our public institutions, K through 12 education. Um, and Black parents are okay with that. So I want you to understand that by not speaking up and by not saying anything, you're giving consent to the while your child is not comfortable. And I've been hearing all sorts of stories where kids have been being called the N-word, um, bullied in class, different things. And so, as parents, um, we work because Black people basically have historically been one of the most impoverished groups or the most impoverished group or class of people in this country. We typically haven't really been able to stay at home, and let me say, some of us haven't been able to stay at home because it's taken the parents out of the household in order to sustain the household. A lot of people just made the choice to work because they want a certain lifestyle or they want to have certain things, or they believe that giving their children things and a nice big house or whatever is the way to go to show success. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to call N-words and subjected to all different types of things that culturally we don't necessarily want or care to have our children exposed to. It's going to lead you to having adults that are questioning everything about themselves and not fitting in any place. And what they should be learning they're not going to learn the things that you need to learn in order to be functioning adults in our society. You're not going to get. And so one of the things that I want to do this year is focus on the solutions. Last year, I spent all last year, last 2, 3 years, just telling y'all, the roof is on fire. And people have, if you're going to heed the warning, you're going to heed the warning. If you didn't, oh well. But, now this is the time that we have to actually work on putting solutions in place so that when this thing falls, we have things in our communities and places that we can go. And one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on, and I'm going to report on a lot on my Twitter thread, is about the role of public education and how it's being attacked, as well as there's this um, challenge before the Supreme Court where religious schools or Christian schools want more public funding in order to um, get their children to basically pull their children out of public schools and have segregated institutions. And for the longest time, white people have been doing that. Evangelicals and Southern Christian and different religious groups, not just um, Christians, Jewish schools, also Jewish people also do this. They use public funding to fund their education initiatives, and they are really basically for them, and it's legal. But Black people have not necessarily been taking advantage of those things for whatever reason. Um, a lot of times it's our attitude that we don't want any grants, we don't want any federal money, we don't want this, that. Well, when we pay taxes and we don't take that money, other groups take our portion and they're like, thank you. Yeshiva, or we're going to fund our Christian lacrosse team with public funds, or we're going to supplement some other aspect of our education so that we can do something else. And meanwhile, we have churches everywhere in every community. Our communities are oversaturated with churches. I don't care how run down, how neglected the communities are. They have an abundance of. Last weekend, I went fishing for my birthday. Spent the weekend just outdoors, and I like to fish. So I drove to Fort Pierce, which is this old historic fishing town in Florida that I like to visit. This is old Florida. It's not built up and pricey like South Florida where I live. And um, as I was coming into town, when you get off to go to the place where I like to go fish, you come through old Florida and you come to this old Black community. And as you go into this community, you just start seeing how depressed it is, how there's no economic development, how the business owners haven't really taken care of the property. It just kind of look run down and they don't put any um, make any effort to paint or do anything to it to make it look nice on the outside. The people look a certain way. I don't know if it's a huge immigrant community, but the people look like they don't necessarily particularly care about the community, or they're just maybe poor. And that's not to say that's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just explaining to you what I see. So as you come into town, you see this, the Black part, on the left side, huge church, looks like it's been there for maybe 100 years, big church. Um, Nothing going on there on a Saturday. On the other side of the street, another big church. It looks like it's a Catholic church. It looks like it's about a whole block. Nothing going on there. Building just sitting there. Looks like it has old classrooms. Um, could be used for multiple purposes, but it's just sitting there. And it looks like it is used on Sundays and Wednesdays, but that's about it. And the way that the community looked, you can't really tell if people actually from the community go there enough to use that big facility. It didn't appear that it was used, you know, for community purposes. So the closer you get to downtown, to the water, the nicer the buildings become, the wider the community is. So you can see where the community investment starts and the community investment stops. And I'm assuming that those people in that community don't participate in the community development process. And the business owners, whoever owns the properties along that main strip coming into town on the way to the beach, they are not necessarily paying attention to what's happening. But there was a clear line where development started and stopped, and it stopped right at the part where the black starts. And so I was like, okay, so, and I see this all the time. So I went to the beach, came back, and I paid attention to all the churches and different things. And I was like, um, Black people have an abundance of faith-based churches, institutions in their communities that are not used. We have churches that don't have no life in them. They might as well be funeral homes, because when you look at a church and the community around it is dead, that church ain't producing anything, in my opinion. It's not putting out people who are able to care for that community to keep it up, and understand how when we don't take care of our community, other people see that, and then they come and they want to buy our property. They undervalue it because we don't show that we value it. And that has been a huge issue. Um, and I attribute it to integration, um, among other things. But um, you know, with the state of public school systems and the fact that states have so much power when it comes to school boards, and how money is distributed, and how curriculum and different groups can come in and demand what they want, and um, supersede or over rule what we as parents, Black parents, want. That a lot of Black parents are like, I'm ready to pull my kids out of school and homeschool or do some type of alternative. And so, but we don't have those institutions set up because we have not been investing in our own communities. We've moved to white communities. We have overdeveloped or helped to develop. And so as this transition, this new world order, this get our asses in gear. And we need to definitely work on getting education back into our communities. And so one of the things that I'm going to do this year is I'm going to teach Black people. First, I'm going to show you where the money is going, and it's not coming to our communities. Most of the money to help us get to college goes to predominantly white institutions, and those institutions hire a couple of Black and brown people. Most times they Black people, but just going to say they do tend to sometimes hire Black and brown people. Those people go out, recruit people, young people to come to their schools through the public school systems. And then those students in turn decide they want to go to predominantly white institutions. Very few HBCUs have these programs, and if they do, because of where HBCUs are located, they often they're not in a place to do a lot of outreach. So it's kind of useless. It's not economically um, feasible or reasonable for them to have such programs. So the rational common sense thing would be to have programs in communities such as churches and other community organizations, so that we can get back to educating our people, teaching our own children, Powers suggested that we do a Saturday school where we basically deprogram white supremacy out of our children, or just provide a safe space where children can learn and ask questions and learn about our culture, where it's okay to speak in um, languages and tones that we are accustomed to, and to teach things that our kids need to learn that other kids do not have to worry about. Um, because our kids are like really vulnerable right now, and kids that are in predominantly white institutions are struggling. Some of them are lost. Some of them think they're okay, they're going to get their wake up calls soon enough. But until then, they think everything is okay. Then there are some parents who understand the hour and the moment that we're in, and they don't really have any solutions because they can't necessarily afford to quit their jobs and homeschool their kids, not before they, transition and downsize their lives. Maybe that's not even an option for a lot of parents. So what we need to do is, use the people that we have in our communities that have the skills and talents to be able to put those things together and partner with institutions or facilities that are not being used to help the community, because there's no need in having a big church with a life center that doesn't have any life in it. It makes no sense to have a building that you pay utilities on every day, 7 days a week, and you only use it two. Why not turn that facility into some type of educational hub or after school program where people can actually use those facilities with no strings attached? Like, it shouldn't be you have a church and the only reason you have a program is to get people to join so you can have more tithes, so you can create the building fund or fund the building fund, or to get a new Cadillac, or so you can have more chicken plates and eat more water beans. I'm like, what's the point? So, for us as a people, we have to have like a meeting with ourselves and talk about all the things that we have had historically in our communities that we've allowed to go to waste or that we've neglected. And we're going to have to go back and fix those things up. It's going to take time, but we don't have much time. So we have to act now and counter what's coming, because what is coming is takeover of schools. There's a plan, and there's really nothing stopping them. The government is not going to stop these white parents and these Proud Boys and different groups from coming to school board meetings and having their way. School board officials are resigning or saying they're not going to run again. Those seats are going to be open. Those people, um, all white folks, are ready to take their places. They have the money. Like, there's a whole national takeover of governmental institutions, and that's going to leave us vulnerable with no choices. So what we need to do is begin to set up our own things with whatever we have. Like, we're poor. We've always been poor, and we've always used what we have had, um, you know, um, at our disposal to do what we need to do, and we're gonna have to get back to that. So what I'm gonna do over the next year is I'm gonna show people where money is. I'm gonna show you who's getting the money to do the things that we have historically accessed and how those things have not benefited us. And then I'm gonna teach you how to build your own stuff. And um, I'm looking for faith-based organizations, churches, um, religious institutions, places that are in our communities that are not being used. If there are old schools that counties are funding, They've turned them into some type of community center and they need people. Like, let's work together. I have knowledge. I can't help everybody across America, but I can teach you how to do what I know how to do. And I can show you where the money is. And I can show you, you know, I can help you all develop curriculum or put people in touch with each other and develop these different types of um, Afro-centered um, educational platforms so that our children, if we need to be homeschooled, we can. If we have professionals and people who are willing to be held accountable, we should do that. And then we should invest our money in those things. We should not, it's time for us to stop investing in things that don't matter. Stop buying the latest cell phone. Stop buying the latest clothes and shoes. Stop buying expensive purses. Pay your car off. Trade your car in for something of less value and use that money to invest in your future. Your children are your future. And so when you're not investing in them, you're investing in other things, but you're allowing your children to go to institutions that are basically going to abuse them and not protect them, then what does that say about your parenting? So, I want you to start thinking about um, how can we work together and support people who want to pull away from the public school system, and how can we connect good people with, public and private partnerships and to build communities. Because if you don't have good schools, if you don't have places, places for your children to go, then your community eventually ends up dying. And kind of that's what you see in a lot of cities. I moved from a place that moved from public recreation to sending people to the Y. And we lived in a rural county where we didn't have public transportation. So in order for students to get to the Y, they would have to be bused there. Then you have to be poor to go because the Y is not free. And so there was this whole shift. And over a 10-year period, the crime rates went up. There was more young Black males getting into fights. Gun violence increased because kids didn't have anything to do. There was nowhere to go. Like, you could see the demise of our community and the hopelessness of our young people. And it was expressed through their behavior. The dropout rates increased. People, just people who made decisions didn't really care. Like, it was just this whole bad thing. And I worked to try to save our community center. And they gave it to somebody that they knew. They gave the community center away for $1 to this woman who didn't do anything with it. And so eventually it just sat there and fell apart. And so about 4 or 5 years later, people were contacting me and were like, what happened? And so I had to explain, I wasn't chosen. The Black people on the board chose to go with somebody that they knew that, didn't have the experience to fundraise or do anything. And, I was a person that had connections in DC. I had connections to funders. I had connections locally with the college, and they didn't choose me. And so they chose a person for another reason, and nothing ended up happening. And so the community lost out because people in power made bad choices and not choices on, that was looking long term down the road. And so now the community is like falling apart. The mall is closed because the young people just go and shoot it up. And I don't know what parents are doing, um, with their kids, but like, my kids just could not be around out doing anything, all mannerisms of whatever. My kids were involved in stuff because I understand that, you know, like we say in the country, idle mind is the devil's playground. You don't give kids structure and stuff to do. They do whatever they want to do, and it's not good because they don't know how to make good decisions. They do what children um, want to do, or Sometimes children act out because they're neglected or abused or abandoned, and then you have to deal with that. So what I want us to get back to is being a village, taking care of everybody. You take care of your elders, you take care of your youth, you take care of everybody in between. And it's time for us to do that. And we don't have much time. So this month, um, towards the end of the month, and you can look in the description, I'm going to have a free training, basically teaching you how other people get money for their programs and how when we don't, they take our portion. So, it's nice and fine to say, oh, I don't want any grants. I don't want nothing from the government, but you're dealing with a bunch of poor people. And then we pay taxes. Our taxes come out of our paycheck even before we um, get our paychecks. And then other people take our portion because we are not set up to or position. We don't have the vehicles to actually um, do public-private partnerships or to enhance whatever is already existing. So I'm going to go into more detail about it. I'm working on the presentation now, but it's going to be through Patreon. You can sign up. It's free. But the other trainings that I actually do, they will have a cost to them only because I don't like to do things for free, because when I do, I have in the past, people don't appreciate it. They don't take advantage of it. So I'm just over our people. If you want something, you're going to have to invest like everybody else. Like I don't have anybody else that expects us to do stuff for free, um, especially not where money is concerned. It takes money to get money. And if you don't want to have money or resources, then you can piecemeal your stuff together, but it's going to be piecemeal and it's probably not going to last long. Um, and the big picture is whatever we do, we are always trying to be able to position ourselves to compete in this national society in general. And so in order for us to compete, there are people who have skills, knowledge, and abilities to help us do that. But you have to be plugged in, you have to want it. And I know a lot of people aren't ready for this transition. So those of us who are able to see and have the capacity to, um, move forward, then let's, and the others will come or the others will fail. At this point, it's not a problem. We just have to do what we can as prophets and as, free thinkers and people who can see the future. Like we won't have a future. You're not going to be able to just sit up in white people's stuff much longer without being pushed out, bullied, or mistreated while you're there. And nobody should have to be exposed to that, especially not our kids. Like I just can't imagine my 8-year-old granddaughter sitting in the classroom with some white little boy calling her a nigger, not without getting my pocketbook and driving to South Carolina and whoop somebody's ass and be in the jailbird paper. That's grandma's about that life. But I don't want to be about that life. Grandma would rather have her grandbaby someplace, even if I had to homeschool her. I would much rather for her to be at home with me and be safe, and I can watch her and make sure she's protected and love on her and help her to become a healthy, happy, nurtured child versus somebody who is just um, broken because they went to school with racists. So I don't want that for my grandkids. I don't want that for anybody's kids. And so I'm gonna work on providing solutions for our people so that we can actually compete because everybody else is getting the money. Let me tell you. When I show you the money that people are getting and they're getting money to help us backdoor because we don't necessarily have a specific protected class, but the money is for us. but everybody benefits from that money. Other groups, other minority groups, other racial groups, other groups that currently have protections and we don't have protections. So I'm going to show that to you, and I want you all to like really pay attention. And then I hope that motivates you to connect with organizations in your community and have them sign up for this training, because we don't, like I said, we don't have much time, and a lot of people have been talking about this, and I haven't treated things that are just basically irrelevant to their social, emotional, and just financial well-being. You can't get rich, or and when I say rich, I mean not like wealthy rich. I mean you just can't healthy financially, mentally, emotionally, when you're being attacked constantly. And we send our kids to school for 8, 9 hours a day. Those people have our children, and our children are being mistreated. They're not talking to us, telling us about the things they're being exposed to. And they're also not able to always express the microaggressions that they get from school officials and from students on a daily basis. So um, we need to practice or prepare a way for our children to be healthy. Just because we don't have a lot of stuff doesn't mean that, it just doesn't mean that we have to suffer, our kids have to suffer. Like, we need to do better. And so I'm all about solutions this year. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on solutions bit by bit. Everybody got to bring something. Bring your brick. I bring my bricks. Somebody brings the mortar. Somebody bring the, you know, tools, and somebody, contributes the labor. We're going to build something, but it cannot be you just come and absorb and don't contribute anything. Everybody's got to contribute. This is not a problem that's going to go away with one or two people addressing it. It's just not. And so get that in your spirit, and let's move forward, because time is running out, and we got to protect our children. Children are the future, and if we don't protect them, we don't have a future. We will be extinct. So let's focus on the children and the education, because those two things are important. You can't have children without teaching them how to be self-sufficient. You just cannot. So um, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video. Please share this video with people who work in faith-based circles. If you know any deacons, or teachers who go to church, just different people who have really been interested in coming out of the public school setting because they are tired of working in those settings, and they are noticing that our children are struggling, and they just simply are not protected, and they're not looking forward to being in the school system after 2022, because you're going to have to deal with those right-wing parents and right-wing school board members who are making decisions based on pre-Reconstruction era feelings and emotions. So let's get back to the basics. Like the video, please share the video, and look out on Twitter and come back to this particular video so that you can find the link to the registration for the different events that are coming up. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And just stay tuned. I'm going to really be on top of this education thing this year, because it's really important. And I see other organizations, other racial groups getting money to do things that we should also be participating in. And, we can have a discussion about whether or not we should actually get grant money, but I don't think it should be a discussion at all because other groups are already getting it. And you can't say those groups are doing better than we are and they get XXX thing. And we don't. When we say with our own mouths, we don't want the money. So you can't have it both ways. And so we're going to talk about that in the next video. And it's going to be on a different platform. I don't know if I'm going to do it on YouTube. I may do it on YouTube. I may do it on Patreon. But in any event, just think about that and stay tuned. Within the next 2 weeks, we will have something to discuss. All right, good people. Talk to you later and see you next time. Thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with like-minded people because, I want to try to help as many people around the country as I can with the skills that I have and what I know so that we can position ourselves to transition into whatever is coming. All right. Talk to you later.